I started feeling uneasy every time I opened our savings app. The balance kept growing, yet somehow our everyday life felt like it was getting smaller. Every dollar we saved already belonged to something else. A down payment, closing costs, and an emergency fund left nothing that felt meant for today. I used to believe that getting closer to buying a house would make life feel more peaceful. Instead, every month that brought us nearer to that dream somehow felt more exhausting. We still laughed over dinner, said good morning, and hugged Mira before bed. From the outside, everything about us seemed completely normal. My name is Clara. It took me a long time to realize we were not only saving money, but also slowly spending something much harder to get back. The alarm rang at 5:30, and before sunrise, I made coffee and opened the budget notebook waiting on our dining table. Every month looked the same: rent, utilities, groceries, and finally the house savings that always made me feel proud. I smiled after transferring money into our house fund, then immediately wondered if our grocery budget would last the week. Armand left early, slipped on his shoes, and quietly said, "I might be home late," just as he had so many times before. I nodded and said, "That's okay," but deep down I could barely remember our last unhurried family dinner. Mira looked up from her drawing and asked, "Is Dad working again today?" I smiled, said yes, and she quietly accepted it. That night, I cleaned the kitchen alone while a house brochure on the table reminded me of the dream we were chasing. Saturdays used to be our favorite day, but lately they have felt like slower work days instead of real time together. After breakfast, Armand opened his laptop and said he only needed an hour or two, and I realized how often I simply nodded. I took Mira to the park, but while she played happily, I caught myself comparing our life with a friend's new home. On the way home, my mind stayed busy with budgets and plans, even as Mira excitedly talked about the butterflies she had seen. That evening, Armand admitted he was tired, and although I felt the same, I quietly kept those words to myself. I realized we talked endlessly about savings and the future, but rarely asked each other how we were really doing. Before bed, I checked our savings again. The goal was closer, yet the growing balance somehow made my chest feel even heavier. The next week looked just like every other one as I handled chores, lunches, school emails, and groceries, but everything felt almost too routine. I realized I was counting more than money. I counted Armin's late nights, missed dinners, Mira's questions, and how much I missed him. That afternoon, Armand texted that another meeting would keep him through dinner, and after replying, all I felt was a quiet emptiness. As Mira talked about her school project, she kept glancing at her father's empty chair before quietly finishing her meal. Armand came home late with an apologetic smile, and although we still cared deeply, we were both too exhausted to talk. Before bed, I looked at our house brochures and wondered whether we would still have time to enjoy that dream together. For the first time, I realized the real burden wasn't saving for a house, but the way we had been chasing that dream together. Spring arrived, and although everything around us felt alive again, I could no longer ignore the quiet change inside me. While folding laundry on the balcony, I heard a nearby family laughing and realized how long it had been since we shared a carefree evening. Armand came home early, and although dinner felt almost normal, his eyes still carried the weight of work. After Mira fell asleep, we sat with tea in front of the television, too tired to start the conversation we both needed. Armand showed me a new house listing, but even its beautiful kitchen and yard no longer filled me with excitement. Before bed, I tried to remember our last conversation that wasn't about work, money, or future plans, but I couldn't. I finally realized we were building our future by quietly sacrificing pieces of our happiness in the present. On a quiet Sunday, we walked to the park with no work, no errands, and no money talk, just enjoying time together. Myra ran ahead with her kite, laughing in the wind, and Armand and I smiled because we had missed hearing her so carefree. Nearby, a father and child happily played with a simple plastic ball, and Armand quietly watched them in silence. Resting on my shoulder, Mira softly said she did not need a big house if Dad could spend more days with us. My heart paused because we had never talked about the house in front of Mira, yet somehow she already understood. As Mira chased soap bubbles, I looked at Armand and saw quiet guilt on his face for the first time in a long while. We walked home in silence, and Mira's simple words completely changed what the idea of home meant to me. That night, I reopened our budget notebook and realized it tracked every dollar, but never how we felt while earning and saving it. Looking back, I saw we always reached one goal only to set another, never stopping to celebrate how far we'd come. We had treated happiness as something to enjoy only after every financial goal was complete. While everyday life quietly slipped away, I asked myself whether our dream house would truly make us happier or simply give two exhausted people a bigger place to live. As I closed the notebook, the numbers no longer felt like progress, but a reminder of what had been missing all along. What we lacked wasn't more money, it was time to breathe, peaceful afternoons, and evenings together before Mira was asleep. That night, I realized every family needs savings for peace of mind, not just for assets, and I quietly named it the Sanity Margin. The next evening, I invited Armand to share tea on our balcony because I wanted to talk as his wife, not about money or plans. I admitted my fear that we were chasing a house while slowly leaving our life behind, and Armand quietly listened. When I shared what Mira had said about wanting more time with her dad than a bigger house, we both sat in thoughtful silence. Armand confessed he believed working longer hours was his way of loving us, until he realized we simply needed more time with him. I admitted I kept pushing our savings goals because stopping felt like failure, and Armand said maybe we were both afraid of falling behind. We talked honestly about our hidden exhaustion and how social media had quietly turned a dream into constant pressure. Before going inside, we agreed to keep dreaming of a home while also saving time for our family. And everything began to feel different. A few days later, I reopened our budget notebook, drew a small box, and named it the Sanity Margin. Armand asked what it meant, and I told him it was money meant to protect our family, not just buy things. We started adding small amounts to that fund, saving for the life we were living instead of only the future we imagined. A few weeks later, we used part of it to hire a cleaner and spent the afternoon together at the park instead. The next week, Armand skipped an extra shift to watch Mira's school performance, and her smile made every moment worthwhile. Our dream house would take a little longer, but seeing Armand and Mira laughing together mattered far more to me. I realized we had not abandoned our dream, we had simply stopped paying for it with the happiness of our family. When people ask when we're buying a house, I just smile because every family follows its own timeline. I still dream of owning a home, but not at the cost of family dinners, Mira's laughter, or quiet evenings with Armand. The Sanity Margin reminds me that some savings should protect our time, energy, peace, and the life we're living now. This journey taught me that a home is more than a house. It begins by protecting the peace inside the one you already have. Before I end, I'd love to ask, have you ever chased someone else's financial goals? And what's one thing you've happily spent money on for a little more peace?